All right. Good evening, everyone. We apologize for the delay. We're having some technical difficulties. So this is our first annual or first quarterly Private Practice Section Government Affairs Committee Google Chat. My name is Brad Grahofsky. I'll be moderating tonight's discussion alongside my fellow GAC committee member, Brian Boyle. He will be joining us shortly, along with the GAC, which stands is an abbreviation for the Government Affairs Committee. The president or the chair of the GAC, John Lockard, will be also joining us shortly. So this new platform that we're using, it's a new outreach tool for the committee to better engage the membership, communicate information, and legislative updates. So viewers out there can type questions for tonight's guests. If they're not answered at the end of the discussion tonight, since we're going to be running a little short on time, we'll try to get back to you via email or some type of other contact that you can leave us in the chat. So these events we're planning to host quarterly, the first Monday of every quarter for the PPS members, and we'll have different guests on each time. So keep an eye out on your emails or PPS social media via Facebook and Twitter, and we will try to give you plenty of notice and reminders for this. So tonight, we're excited to have two individuals from within the private practice section joining us. They're here to primarily discuss the PPS operations, goals, and our current advocacy and legislative efforts, and also current opportunities for the membership to get involved. Tom DeAngelis is the current in the private practice section, and as I mentioned, John Lockard, who will be joining us shortly, is the chair for the Government Affairs Committee. So, as I mentioned before, my name is Brad Grahofsky, and I currently serve on the Government Affairs Committee, and I'm also in my second year as an orthopedic manual physical therapist resident in Annapolis, Maryland. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to our president, Tom DeAngelis, let him introduce himself, and we'll get started with some discussion. So, Tom, go ahead.
Great, thanks, Brad. I'm glad we got the technology worked out on this so that we can get this going for the first time in the private practice section. And I am living out in the Seattle area. I have a private practice out there. And I've been in private practice actually since 1988. And certainly my passion with the section, and as I've been president, is really in what we're doing in government affairs and advocacy. So I welcome this new forum for us to be able to connect with members and be able to communicate things that we're doing and all the important work that the Government Affairs Committee is doing. So I really look forward to tonight's discussion.
All right, thanks, Tom. Well, let's get started with some questions here. So what we've done is Brian and I have put together some topics that we wanted to discuss and just engage a membership and keep everyone informed, and also put a face to the names that you see coming through the emails and the Impact magazine. So Tom, as the elected president of the private practice section for the past 6 years, can you tell us about the PPS and how this section is different from the other sections in the APTA?
Yeah, certainly, Brad. I think the private practice section is not a section, as most of the other sections are, or some of them are now actually called academies and not sections. But as you know, most of those are really oriented. Private practice section is one of a few that is really geared towards the issues and the issues that we face and things of that nature. So that's one of the big differences about private practice section compared to the others. Of course, that actually has our own lobbyist that lobbies on our behalf, and we're doing that all by ourselves. We're not. That's a contract that PPS has with the lobbyist, Jerry Connolly. No other section does that, and I think that sets us apart also because it ensures that our advocacy issues are being taken to the Hill on a regular basis. I think that's a tremendous value for our members and sets us apart from what the other sections are doing.
Great. So from your perspective, from someone who's been involved in the private practice for many years now, When someone joins the PPS as a new member, what is one of the first things that you would recommend they should do to get engaged or to get involved and to stay connected?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to, when somebody joins, as you all know, a tremendous amount of work that's being done by the section, and it's hard to keep track of. But if they connect first via the website, it's a wealth of information. I think anybody new to the section should spend a lot of time going through that website, reading the mission, the vision, the strategic plan of the section is on the website, looking at the government affairs tab and what our priorities are. They could learn a lot about the section and the issues that we're working on just by looking at that website. Uh, so if they happen to know a board member, to connect with them. It's great to have a board connection if you're a new member, somebody that you could email, talk to. And if they don't know a board member, find maybe somebody that's close to their state or if they have to, that you can just pick a name and try to connect with that board member so that they have that connection and hopefully somebody that can help them navigate through a little bit. In addition, I think connecting with the staff. As we know, our staff has a wealth of information and can really help a member navigate and try to figure out where to go to find things, how to find them, and what the section is doing. So I think those are all great resources. Of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that also to connect, the best place, as we all know, is the annual conference that PPS has. It's considered the conference for physical therapists, and particularly when you talk to the people that go year in and year out, they say that they go because of the networking. They make connections that they'll have for a lifetime, and year in and year out, people come back because of the networking. Not to mention the programming at the PPS annual conference is truly geared towards the business of private practice physical therapy. So I would recommend those types of things for somebody new to the section.
Yeah, and I, just from personal experience, I'm a new graduate, new professional, about 3 years out, and it's really been great. Once you start to connect and meet the staff and the board and other members, it's really easy to get fired up, and I appreciate that within the section, and I think students and new professionals, if they take that first step early on, can really develop those connections that are going to be so integral to our profession and to our section as we move forward, especially with a lot of the legislative issues, which we will definitely be covering over the coming calls and Google Chats that we do. So any new professionals or students watching, I would definitely encourage you to get involved and keep an eye out on the e-news and our social media outlets. I know there's a new student SIG that's getting very involved, and they're setting up some good networking there for the students. So on that note, let's talk about some upcoming events. Every year the PPS holds the annual conference. So can you go in a little more detail about why the conference is so important to the section and what happens at the conference that helps to drive our section in our direction?
Yeah, so every year at a conference, this is where number one, where we have our elections for office. And so this is a place where people can come, they can interact with the candidates, they can ask them questions, they can vote and play a major part in the future direction of the sections. So the conference is the place where we elect our new officers for the board. Which is very important. When you think about having a say in the direction that your section is going, being able to participate in that is critical. Now, that's not to say if you don't go to conference you can't participate. There are ways that you can vote absentee, and I would encourage anybody to check out the website for that absentee, for the absentee ballot to be able to vote there. Again, I can't say enough about the networking that occurs at our conference, and for example, John Lockard, who you'll be talking to shortly. John and I have known each other now for decades, and we, the annual conference is one of the places that we always know we can connect, and you make those lifelong connections by attending. And the thing is that we learn from each other. I love going to conferences, just hear how other people are their problems and their issues in their state, because it helps me in my practice, and it gives me something valuable to take back that I can improve on. And if I don't I have a network of people I can call or email around the country as a result of making those connections. So that I think is the real key as far as our conference goes. And again, hats off to the programming committee, because they do great programming at this conference for truly topics that relate to our business. And I think that's a big plus, and that's why people keep coming back.
Great. I actually have not had a chance to make it to the conference yet, but I've heard great things, and that it's just an amazing networking opportunity. I've made it to a couple of the events in Washington, which John will touch on here in a little bit, but it truly is a great networking opportunity. And you touched on something while you're speaking relating to the upcoming elections. Now that you are officially coming to an end of your term, could you go into a little bit more detail on the elections and why this could be such a pivotal year, and why it's important for members to get involved with that process?
Sure. I think that every year the elections are critical because sometimes we're electing a high number of director positions, and other times, like this year, we don't have as many director positions. We have one, but we are electing a new president and a new vice president. So you're talking about two key positions on the executive committee, the two top leading positions. So this is a critical year when you think about how rapid things are changing in here today and everything we have to deal with. Deciding who your next leaders are going to be is critical to this section, continuing to do our work and improve upon it and move forward. So this is, when you're electing the top two positions in your section, it's a big year. It's a critical year. And so that's why I think it's so important that people do get engaged, that they read the statements of the candidates in PACT and online, and they participate in the voting process, because it's a lot to when you have a change at the top level with the two major positions. In addition, I don't know if for those out there, if they realize that every year there also is a nominating committee position that's elected on as well. And so there's always somebody new coming on the nominating committee, and that's the committee that's responsible for finding the candidates and slating office. So a lot of important elections that take place at the annual conference, and this is a big year.
Okay, well, great. Well, thank you, Tom, for your time and your volunteering and service for the section, and over several years now. Appreciate you coming on and talking to us and educating the membership. I believe we have John Lockard now on our call. I believe that we got our technology figured out.
It is critical. It is critical who is on the board of directors, in that currently the present board has made advocacy a definite high priority, and that's a big change, and we need that change. And hopefully we continue to move forward in the same direction with any new elected officers.
Great. So, John, we were having some technology issues early on. Could you give us a brief overview of who you are as within our section and as the chair of the Government Affairs Committee? Could you kind of introduce yourself and what your role is in relationship between the board and the members?
Yes, I was asked to chair the Government Affairs Committee after several years of being a committee member, knowing that the responsibilities would grow. It is our role to help define current legislation before Congress to the membership, make sure there's a clear understanding of what we are facing in the coming Congress, Uh, Also, our latest charge has been to develop a key contact for many members of Congress, those certainly on committees of jurisdiction, meaning those committees that may generate a bill that would affect the practice of physical therapy. So our committee's responsibilities have grown, and our committee has grown. We meet by telephone conference once a month and discuss what our needs are. Current needs have been mainly creating these advocacy fly-ins to Washington, D.C., this being our second one, which is ongoing at on this day. Tomorrow will be our first, or second day rather, going to the Hill just as the private practice section. We have coordinated with the APTA, and they have done their forum for years, and they have helped us greatly in getting this program established.
So I was a part of the first event that we hosted last year, or the original fly-in advocacy event. Can you kind of go into more detail on what your goals are for these events, so the more members know and understand what our plan is and what our aim is when we go to Washington, D.C. and speak with legislators?
Yes, we have definite bills before Congress that we need to talk to Congress about and make sure that they understand the role of physical therapy and the needs of their constituents. Those specific bills are, that many people know, the therapy cap, the sustained growth rate, the so-called SGR, locum tenens, or the ability for another physical therapist to substitute for a solo practitioner to go away for a while and still be able to bill Medicare for those services performed. Most other medical professionals are able to do this, but physical therapists are not. They are the three main things that we're going after right now. And also there is the in-office ancillary exception, of which we are a part of and would rather not be a part of that. And so there's a separate bill before Congress for us to be excluded from that. So they are the main things that are occurring right now, and that will change as each year goes by, and we'll have different priorities.
So essentially, you're representing the front lines for our profession, our practices right now, in going in and speaking with the representatives. How many members do you have at the Hill currently for the event this week?
We have 74 members. We have 124 key contacts signed up, and we need more. According to our lobbyist, Jerry Connolly, we need around 212 key contacts. That would mean that one member was assigned to each designated legislator.
And I believe more information can be found on the PPS website, and also by contacting the private practice staff or one of us or any other committee member. So with these advocacy outreaches over the past 2 years, I know a lot of the members hear a lot about the things that are going on and the things we're trying to influence, but has there been any movement in some of those areas that you were discussing with the SGR and the therapy cap? Have there been any examples of movement as far as with legislation and gaining momentum with our representatives that we have helped to influence?
Well, certainly, yes. The number one thing is that we finally have a majority in the House of those who are co-sponsors for the therapy cap repeal. There are 435 congressmen and women. We have 224 co-sponsors at this point. It was just 2 weeks ago when we reached the critical threshold of 218 co-sponsors, and now it's at 224. Once something like that reaches a critical mass, we're able to actually maybe get a bill passed.
Great, and I'm sure that we'll be hearing more about those different issues in the coming months, and appreciate all you're doing on the Hill. Now, you're obviously very involved with the dealings of the private practice section and have been for 1 or 2 years, as I understand. But how can one or two or maybe a few more? But how can other members who are interested, how would you recommend that they better stay engaged in order to represent the interests of their business and our profession as a whole? What would you recommend that they do?
As President D'Angelo said earlier, I think the number one thing is to get to annual conference. Once at annual conference, they'll be able to meet people that are well versed in what the section does. They will learn about how other people have managed their businesses. Beyond that, they need to make contact with those people that are involved in the management of the section, whether that's a board member, a committee member. There's always a place for a willing, motivated, young member of this section to get involved and make a definitive contribution.
Great. Well, great advice and great words, and thank you also for what you're doing on the Hill and taking time out of your clinic and your life to represent our profession. Really appreciate all you do, and I know firsthand all the work that you put in, and Tom also. And thanks for taking time out to help with this first Google chat. Are there any other words of advice or anything you'd like to add or discuss before we start to wrap up our first Google chat here?
Well, I just think it's important that members of the section, and beyond that, all members of the APTA, and beyond that, all physical therapists need to be aware of the high priority that this section, particularly under its leadership, have placed a high priority on advocacy. It is critical to the advancement of our profession.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. We appreciate your time. So as I mentioned earlier in this call, our plans with this chat are to help better engage the membership. So moving forward, what we're planning to do here is in 3 or 4 months, when time's rolling around for spring, that's a time when SGR and therapy cap and some of these issues that we just kind of initially brought up tonight, when they really start to roll and get moving. So what we plan to do is to keep our membership more informed. We'd like to bring on some of our policy makers and our lobbyists within the section and the APTA. So within the next couple months, hopefully we can get some more information out more quickly through this forum to our members. So moving forward, that's what we're planning kind of for our next chat. I would just recommend and ask that anyone that has questions that's watching, please contact one of us. And if you've been thinking about getting involved and would like to get involved and want to find out more about the Key Contact Program to develop some direct relationships with your representatives, as John mentioned, we really need that, and our lobbyist, Jerry Connolly, has been working really hard, as well as our staff, and 2 of the men you heard speak tonight. They've been working really hard on setting that program up, and that's going to do some really powerful things to represent us as a profession, especially as private practitioners. So if you've been thinking about getting involved or know nothing about the private practice and this is your first introduction, we would all really encourage you to take the next step, contact one of us or our staff. If you have any questions, all of our contact information is on the PPS website. And as I mentioned before, please keep an eye out on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, the e-news for our upcoming chats and opportunities to get involved. So thank you again, Tom and John. If you don't have anything to add tonight, I think we covered the topics we want to, and hopefully we got some people interested. And just thank you again for your time. And we look forward to.
Thank you for organizing.
You're very welcome, John. Thanks for all you do. And to everyone out there, please get involved. Represent yourselves, especially the younger guys, younger men and women. Get involved, represent your profession, because we have to. We really have to represent our future. So thank you, everyone. Have a good night, and we will see you on the next Google Chat. Thank you.